is really pretty.
Vehicle passing stern, passing stern.
Roger that.
This is a voice slate. This is a voice slate for dive H1931. UTC time 090800. Mark.
Oh, that's a lot of squid.
Okay.
We can hold position.
Thank you. Bridge nav. Can we hold position? Thank you. I said that like a question.
What's up? Oh, it's fine. It's just, it's resizing itself. Once the depth gets sort of sorted out, it'll be fine.
Deck control, Van, go ahead.
Roger, standing by at 50 meters.
Roger, standing by at 50 meters.
Aloha mai kako. Welcome to the evening shift. We have now deployed Hercules to our next site. Our 5th dive is coming up here. We've got about 4,000 meters to 3,900 is our depth tonight. So we're at about 51 meters. So we're going to have a lot of blue water this evening. But feel free to, our chat is open. Please pop your questions in the chat and we're happy to address them for you as we're diving into our site. Mahalo. So as we're making our way down to our site, to the bottom of the ocean, I'm going to go ahead and open it up. We are the unmuted watched crew. Oh, you're muted. Am I muted or unmuted?
You're muted.
We're the You're Muted watch crew. And we'd like to go ahead and introduce ourselves as we head down the water column. So I'm going to open it up to our scientists that are on the watch today. So please feel free to introduce yourself, everyone.
Yeah. Roger, paying out slow.
Yeah, I'm Rob Cullenny. I'm the watch lead for this watch, and also the geology lead for the cruise. And
Whoa, 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 whoa. Don't
that's it.
slam it like that. Like they're at the cable.
Oh.
They're trying to get the cable liver set up. So out slow is what it was asked for.
Thank you for joining us, Rob. I hope we
Yeah,
find some
out slow
cool
is what we asked
geology
for.
down there. Liz, how about you?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Liz Miller. I'm here as a guest scientist, and I'm the biologist on this shift.
Thank you, Liz. Aloha, Taylor Ann.
Aloha, I'm Taylor Ann. I am the science manager and data logger on this watch.
Roger that.
Yeah,
Down.
I'm here to log all the data and observations that we see. Not too many things to see in the blue water, but you know, right now we're having a great time watching these squid ink in front of us.
So we'll shoot for.
There's a lot of squid
let's go to
action.
like 20,
When we first started
25-ish
going.
to start,
Yvonne,
and we'll see how things kind of
how about
shape
you?
up.
Yeah, Ivan Vicente, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. Here as a guest educator. Extremely privileged to be here tonight.
Thank you, Yvonne. Dave.
Hey everybody, Dave Robertson, lead video engineer for this expedition, and sitting in the video seat, push the buttons, making the show.
Oh.
Awesome, Dave. Thank you. Pilots and navigators, are you ready to introduce yourself? Let us know. Feel free to take the mic.
Sure, yeah. I'm Emma from Annapolis, Maryland, and I am the navigation intern on this watch.
Thank you, Emma.
Hey, I'm Josh Chernov. I'm the Hercules pilot for this watch and ROV operations manager for OET. I've come from Vancouver Island, BC.
Mahalo, Josh. Aloha, Michael. Oh, unmute.
No, you're not.
Yes, I'm not on the SPL. Now I'm on the SPL. I am Michael. I am a grad student out of UCLA. I am going to be the Atalanta pilot and assisting in whatever way I can to the Herc pilot here on board for the remainder of this particular watch.
Thank you,
Just the
Michael.
watch.
And I am Hoku Pihana. I'm your science communicator. I'm from Moko Okeawe, the Big Island of Hawaii. And I'm just happy to be here and share the space with everyone as we dive down into the depths of the ocean. Mahalo for joining us. Malama.
What's the transceiver sound speed?
Okay, let's bring it up to
Thank you.
25.
Got it.
Okay.
$25.
25, okay.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone. This is Rob, the watch leader, and just want to give people a little overview of what we're going to be doing on this dive. This one's going to be a little different than what we've been doing in the past. The other dives have been going up some seamounts or a flat-topped geo, and but this one is the target area is about a 100 or 200 meter or 200 kilometer long, very thin ridge. And there's actually a pair of them.
Starting here,
And
going
we're
here.
going to be diving on one at the very top. We're going to go to the deepest. We're probably going to go on this entire cruise to 3,900 meters. Start there. And we're going to go up slope along a very
Can you
steep
say that again?
slope, about 30 to 40 degrees until we
Okay.
get to the top after about 500 meters. And once on top of this ridge, we're going to kind of go along the top of the ridge and for another 200 meters. So overall, it's going to cover about 700 meters on this dive vertically.
Yeah, that's mostly which way.
And since this is so much deeper than some of our other ones, it'll be interesting to see how much biology, because it seems like most of our coral and fish and everything have been much shallower than we are. So, but it should be some really exciting geology if you're a geology buff. The slope we're going up should
Do you want
be
to keep it on the
exposed-
res, or do you want me to just move it?
should be exposed oceanic crust, and should be a
Ah,
nice
just
little
leave it there.
cross section, kind of like a road cut in the ocean. And I'm pretty sure this isn't going to be your typical volcanic ridge like we've seen in the past, but it's probably going to be an uplifted tectonic feature, I believe. Okay. Yep. Yeah, and actually in plan view, the feature we're going to go up, it looks like it's a almost like a luge chute or a bobsled chute. It's just so steep, so interesting. And so being a geologist, I'm very excited about this one. I'm excited about all the dives, but this one's really real of interest to me. So I hope you enjoy it. Unfortunately, this wash will be over by the time we get down to the sea floor in another about 2.5 hours. But I'm going to be sure to hang out and watch as much as I can going up this slope.
Mahalo, Rob, for sharing all of that information. That's very helpful. And if for our viewers out there who are joining us today, if you wanted to look at Channel 3, that can give you kind of a sense of the region that we're heading towards and the bathymetry or the topography of that environment.
Yeah, it's a bathymetry and topography. And the top of that ridge is only about 1 kilometer wide. So it's kind of interesting. It's very, very narrow in terms of geologic features. And the little spurs going down the side and the steepness kind of tell us it's a tectonic feature. So it's probably a former fault, oceanic fault. And this whole feature has been uplifted, as well as the one slightly to the north.
There's a lot of excitement about this ridge structure on the mapping leg that we did last month because the satellite altimetry showed that there were ridge-like structures there, but nobody could really tell what they were until we got to them.
Wow.
And then the anticipation was that they would all be too deep for us to dive on.
Wow.
That they look like they went really deep, and they do. but we were, once we started mapping, the mapping crew put a mask over it at 4,000 meters just to see if there was anything that poked up just enough for us to be able to dive on. And just the tips, the very top of this highest part of the ridge is diveable for us. So, but great anticipation because of the difference in the structure between this and the other seamounts that we see, like Rob said. So everybody was
this will be exciting.
pretty excited about it. The mappers were
yeah, the map.
very intrigued.
Yeah. Very. Thank you, Dave, for sharing that with us. Aloha mai e Mountain View. Mahalo for joining us.
Yeah, no worries. That's what I'm here for. Yeah, we definitely need the tiki on this one.
Anyone out there who's wondering, by the way, we are about 140 nautical miles away from Johnston Atoll right now, which is, yeah.
Thank you, Emma. I was curious. I was wondering how far away we were from Johnston's.
Yeah, we've been southeast for most of it, but now we are southwest.
Cool.
Yeah, Dave, the prior crews that mapped this feature did an incredible job. I mean, this just looks gorgeous, this feature. And the way you have it displayed is very effective to see the region. I mean, looked at some of the, there really isn't any other geophysical data in this area, but there is a hint with some gravity data that this may be an uplifted fault. So something we call a transverse ridge that often border fracture zones on the ocean, but there aren't any known fracture zones in this area or old transforms. So it'll be interesting to see what this really is if we get a chance to get some more geophysics on it.
What does gravity data tell you?
It actually tells us how thick the oceanic crust is.
Oh.
If you look at it right, something we look at called the Mandible Gay kind of mirrors what the base of the oceanic crust should be, because on average the oceanic crust is about 5 kilometers.
Okay.
But if you have some faulting, like a normal fault, not like the San Andreas, but more like the basin and range area, if you have some extension, you get what we call a normal fault, which goes down to about 30 or 45 degrees.
Okay.
And when the plates pull apart along that feature, it changes the balance of the isostatic balance. And so what they call the hanging wall, or the part that has the overhang on the fault, actually flexes downward. And the underlying plate, that when it pulls, actually gets flexed upward.
Right, okay.
So.
And then that kind of puts that gravity weight.
Yeah, and so what ends up happening by doing that, you actually have thinner crust.
Okay.
That would be, to the south of this area. And when I looked at the regional gravity data, it's not very good resolution. And indeed, it was thinner crust to the south of this feature.
Wow.
But once I saw the map, I did this before I saw these maps, but then when I saw the steep sides on both sides, it really surprised me, because I didn't expect to see that, because I would expect the northern side of this feature to look more like basic seafloor that's been flexed up. But
so both sides are flexed up?
I don't know. This is what it would be interesting to see, to look at this a little more.
Huh. Okay, cool. I'm glad I asked that question.
No, it's very, very interesting.
Yeah. Well, and these maps give really good visuals, kind of help give context of what the shape of these bases are and what they're doing. Thank you, Rob.
And I have to give a shout out to Aaron and the people who mapped this before, as well as Rennie, who's on our cruise with us. And they use a system called Flighter Mouse after they process these data. And they can show us any view, any vertical exaggeration, so it really helps with our initial interpretation of what's going on. And they do a really great job. They turn around the data very quickly, and it's basically all you have to do is ask, and it's there within a couple of minutes, whatever you need.
Wow, that's amazing.
So our colleagues Aaron Heffron and Lindsay G were the expedition leaders on the mapping cruise last time out. Haley is was on their crew, and she's the master of Fledermaus. She did all kinds of interesting looks, as well as Lindsay and Aaron as well.
Cool.
So they were able to bring out all kinds of really interesting looks and that kind of stuff. And they took great care on this ridge.
Wow.
Everybody was intrigued by it because of the difference, and they knew that it would be a good dive site if we could find it shallow enough to be able to actually dive on it. So we mapped the heck out of it.
You were on a mapping mission.
They were absolutely.
Well, they did a great job. It does really look very nice. Very telling, too, of what the shape of this place is.
Well, it just does. It's amazingly sets up the ROV dives. You know, they just can't go without saying how important the mapping is and what great mappers we have within the OET group. And it just it makes the ROV team's life so much easier, and all the scientists for planning. And it's just the real foundation of everything that we do. And so yeah, it's well said, Dave. But we have a great team that puts these foundational pieces in place for us to help go explore these areas.
Oh, thank you for sharing, Josh. Yep, so an extra special shout out to all of our mappers who do such awesome jobs for us. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
We're seeing a lot of fish as we're heading down.
They're kind of fun.
Yeah, these are probably, a lot of them live deeper during the day, and then they come up closer to the surface at night to feed.
Liz, what do they normally feed on when they're coming up to the surface?
A lot of the ones we're seeing, like that fish right on screen right there, they're what we would call nekton sized, and they're eating zooplankton for the most part. So that's sort of really small, often microscopic animals.
And what is nekton sized?
It's basically more in the kind of the centimeter size range.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, like a lot of the fish we're seeing here, which are maybe, up to like 10 centimeters.
Oh, wow.
Thanks. And how?
That would be about 4 inches. No.
Yeah. Is it?
I don't know. Is that the distance between the two dots on the ROV?
How far down do they go compared to when they come up for night? Like, what is the difference?
It depends on the species, but some of them might be all the way down to like 1,000 meters.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
And they might go all the way up to maybe 200 meters or even higher. It's actually the largest migration on Earth, we like to say. It's true. It's twice a day, every day. A huge mass of animals migrates up at night to the surface to feed where it's dark and things can't see them. And then during the day, when the sun's back out, they migrate back down to depth.
That's amazing.
And this happens everywhere in all the oceans, twice a day.
Oh,
What
really?
a commute.
Yep.
Oh, boy.
And they don't have to pay for gas.
Yeah.
And what's really interesting is, especially in tropical waters like this, they're crossing really intense temperature ranges. Like, even though they're only going a few hundred meters, maybe they're going, maybe 10 degrees Celsius in temperature, which is really, really different. And so it's interesting that they're able to kind of survive at both temperatures. It also might be a really different oxygen concentration. So even though it's physically not a large distance, sort of environmentally, it's huge.
You can just keep
Is that
it
about the
steady,
temperature
like 30,
range that
and then
Emma goes
I
through
can-
from her launch position to
I just
outside
want to
the
go
band?
too
Pretty much.
ahead of you.
That's okay. I can play with it here, and then just keep that one steady at 30.
Copy.
Gosh, it seems to be a lot of action in the water column
Yeah.
for this dive.
This is great.
Lots of jellyfish.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so jellyfish actually are technically zooplankton as well. Zooplankton, it's actually not a size category. It's plankton just means that you're not able to swim against the current on your own, that you're a drifter. So jellyfish are basically very large plankton.
So Rob, what are you expecting or hoping to see along these, on this dive as far as geology goes?
Well, I'm expecting to see a portion of the upper oceanic crust.
Okay.
So the upper 500 meters or so would be mostly extrusive volcanics, but like yesterday, there's probably a good number of intrusive dikes as well. So it's really tough to get a cross section or like a road cut in the ocean. There are very few places where you can do this, and they're often very deep. So this is actually a pretty fortuitous potential area to look at the cross section of the oceanic crust and get some measurements and see what's going on with these features. The structure could be really interesting.
And they're pretty distinct. Like when we go, I'm sure your eyes will be able to capture it pretty instantly. But like, are they really strikingly apparent for like the, like the layman eye when you see them? Is it just like boom right there? Or they kind of?
Well, I think like we have been the previous dives, you can actually see these intrusive dikes in potentially some of these columnar basaltic, jointing. But we'd also probably see some pillows in cross section.
Do you think we'll find any like marine snow sandy bodies? Like,
oh, I mean, there's probably definitely sand here that's on some of the ledges.
Right down.
But it looks like the steep of a scarp and the way it's kind of cut, it looks like there's a lot of mass wasting or erosion down this slope.
Okay.
It'll be really interesting to see what biology will be hanging out here.
Yeah, it will be. So just a bit of information for our viewers to just give you a sense of how long our dive will be. So our bottom depth is a max of 3,900 meters. We're currently at 572 meters in depth, moving at a velocity of about 32 meters per minute. And the expected time to reach the bottom is about 103 minutes-ish. So we're gonna have a nice long cruise down the water column. Keep your eye out for any awesome things that we may see as we dive down to the depths there.
It's not perfect. It won't click anymore, which might be a benefit. We'll put this one away.
You got this thing right here.
I know. I brought this too.
Oh, where's the cube up
What
there?
makes the top of the ridges so flat
I looked for it, couldn't find it.
looking?
Well, I think this is actually seafloor, which was probably initially an abyssal plain, which are pretty much flat lying, and this has been uplifted, I believe. But in the map, you can actually see on satellite feed 3, there is a little peak there, so that's probably a little seamount that was erupted on the seafloor way back when the crust was formed. And this crust was probably formed maybe close to 120 million years ago. I haven't checked, but it's older than 100 million years. And the very tops, you know, are probably, there is a good chance there's sediment on top of here. And, but we have some other features in the ocean. The geo we dove on, which is very flat topped. And that typically happens at these latitudes where the seamount is exposed to the surface of the ocean. And after it erupts, it creates a seamount like Hawaii. After a while, you start to have erosion occurring. And what happens to seafloor, as it ages, it sinks as well. It becomes more dense and the whole thing starts to sink. As it sinks, you start to get coral reefs surrounding it. And as the seamount sinks, it's slow enough for the coral to keep growing. And at some point, it sinks so far that it's below a point where coral can grow. And at that time, it's a very flat top or a sediment infilled atoll. And the whole thing kind of continues sinking. It's flat after that.
And that's so interesting, like the whole process, because like when an island becomes an island, it comes up in this this form, and then it sinks itself, and it's almost like it's doing this like invert, you know, like first it's up, you know, high, and then it kind of brings itself in, and then sinks back down. Do you understand what?
Yeah. Well, what's interesting?
Visualizing?
Well, what's interesting about the Hawaiian Islands is there's actually a moat that surrounds it. It's a depression that surrounds most of it, and that's basically, if you ever walked down onto a trampoline, and your weight kind of buoys it down. If you took a cross section there, it's kind of a flexure that's down. So the weight of the Hawaiian Islands is actually causing the lithosphere to bend downward under the weight. It's kind of like if you walk down to the end of a diving board. The same sort of thing happens. It bends down, and you create a moat around this feature. And we actually look at the size of the seamount and the character of the moat, the depth and the width, to estimate at what point how old the seafloor was when the seamount was erupted.
Wow.
People are able to do that.
That's crazy. That's really cool.
And so what's interesting, at higher latitudes where you don't really have a lot of coral growing, it's primarily an erosional feature. So you can get flat top features at higher latitudes. That are flat top but without coral reefs. And it's more of an erosional wave action eroding the tops of these things.
Oh, I see. Rather than it being pushed up, that flat land surface that gets pushed up from.
Yeah, well, it's an eruption like you get a seamount, but because the erosion, it kind of makes the erosion causes a flat top.
Gives the flat top. Oh, cool. Thank you. So we do, I think this, we do have a question here, just how much deeper is this dive than the typical dive?
Well, most our other deep dives, the deepest parts, the first dive and I think the second dive, we started at 3,200 meters. And so this one is starting at 3,900 meters, which is about 700 meters deeper. And pretty close to the maximum depth that Herc can go.
One of the other interesting parts of this one is that we're not ascending very much either. We're kind of going up a steep ridge and then staying on the flat part on top. Whereas the other dives where we went to 3,200, we went up more than 1,000 meters.
So we're going to stay pretty consistently at the 3,900 meter depth? So we won't be moving up and down like how we did?
Well, initially it's really steep. So like the first 500 meters will be up this scarp. And then once we get to the top, it's only another 200 meters along the flatter area.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Thank you. Oh, I was wondering if we were going to go down. Okay. Thank you for showing me that. All right, we've got a question coming in for Liz here, or anybody who would like to answer. Have you seen a sea animal that is longer than a siphonophore?
I think the longest one that I have seen was probably a siphonophore. I guess I've seen whales, not from an ROV, but just from my own personal experience. That would be the longest sea animal that I've seen is a whale.
How long is a siphon? Oh, okay.
Well, they can get very long.
Get pretty long.
Yeah.
Wow.
So they're actually colonial, so they can kind of just keep growing if you just keep adding members to the colony.
For real?
Yeah, that's not one individual. It's a lot of individual animals working together.
Thank you, Liz.
Yeah.
Oh, so we have a question for our pilots here. Whenever you folks are ready.
Yeah.
What limits Herc to 4,000 meter max depths?
There's a few things on Herc that limit it to 4,000 meters. One is the foam pack. So the foam that allows it to float has a depth rating, 4,000 meters. The main electronics housing, the 1 atmosphere bottle that houses kind of all the brains of Hercules, is 4,000 meter rated. And then I think there's a couple sensors on there. I know the Paro is 4,000 meter rated, which measures a depth pressure sensor there. There might be one other thing that I'm forgetting. But yeah, those are the main things.
Thank you, Josh.
Sure.
Josh, are you ever tempted to see how far it really can go?
No. Not even
That means
one
they'll have
bit.
to fix it later.
Would you consider that a career limiting decision, maybe?
Possibly. Yeah.
It'd be a resume generating event.
It's always a little,
Something to do on the way out.
when you're taking this type of equipment to its depth rating, it's it's always a little bit of apprehension there. Like you're testing the limits of the system for sure.
Yeah, I remember my first dive in Alvin. We actually went to 4,010 meters. And the pilot got scolded for exceeding the limit.
I bet. Yeah, they follow the rule book pretty closely with Alvin.
Are there any efforts being made to try and create an ROV that can go past 4,000 meters?
Oh, there's lots of RVs that go past. Yeah.
Oh, there's already ROVs that do that.
Yep.
Oh,
yeah.
cool.
There's not a lot of RVs that can go that deep. And depending 6,000 meters, you'll see traditional ROVs that look similar to Herc that can go to those types of ratings, or bigger kind of work class ROVs. But then there's some, like Woods Hole built a Nereid vehicle that can actually made it down to it was close to 11 kilometers, about 10 kilometers.
Wow.
Something like that.
We also have one on the back deck that can go to 6,000.
Who is that?
Well, Atalanta is rated to 6,000 meters, and so is Little Herc and Argus. Actually, if we take off one sensor, I think.
Was Allison?
Can go to 4,000 meters. So yeah, we have Little Herc, which is under cover on the back deck. They have the 6,000 meter rated ROV.
And so whatever happened in Nereid?
It's still down there, as far as I know.
I know someone who was on that cruise and is still a little traumatized.
Yeah, it's this type of work is extreme. You're pushing the limits, and when you do that, things happen. That's even though you best efforts to keep things safe and bring everything back in one piece. It's when you're pushing the extreme limits and these types of technologies, things can happen that are a little bit out of your control. And so yeah, the Nereid vehicle is still on the bottom of the seafloor right now.
Womp womp.
Oh yeah, sorry, I'm not paying attention. I'll slow down.
I think we left the shrimp friends behind.
Aloha pilots, we do have another question for you.
Sure.
So how maneuverable is Hercules? Is it able to bend, twist, flip, or is it pretty static in the position that it holds right now?
It doesn't flip, but it's like we call it, like when you pilot an ROV, like that's what we call it. We call it flying because it is it's very three-dimensional. You can go up and down and side to side and turn, and you can fly the vehicle in multiple directions. But it can't flip over because the foam block is on the top, and you bring it and you put all your weight on the bottom. So it's actually designed not to flip over. So if you just let go of all the controls, it'll float, straight up and down.
Oh,
We have it trimmed a little bit nose down, but yeah, for the most part, it the foam pack up top keeps it floating.
Thank you, Josh.
Yeah.
Such screensaver. Like the blue water. It looks like a screensaver.
Although, I'm not the biggest fan of the marine snow on my screensaver. I'd rather have the little shrimp.
So we have officially reached a 1,000-meter mark, and we have about 103 more minutes to go before we reach the bottom, and we're moving at a velocity of about 27 meters per minute. Woo! Woohoo! That was only what? How long did that take us? About 40 minutes-ish? An hour?
A little bit less than that.
Cool. Moving right along. So I have another question coming in here, and this is for anyone who would like to answer. How long is the dive planned for?
Well, the dive plan has a really low estimate of 10 hours, but we anticipate it'll probably be a little bit more than that because it's going to be 2.5 hours down, 2.5 hours up. That's 5 hours. We'll probably be on the seafloor, probably another 6 hours. So I'd probably think, a little bit longer. I mean, maybe 16, 18 hours. That would probably be a closer estimate.
Thank you.
It's actually going to be about 4 hours back up because we go half the speed.
The top is about 3,000 meters, right?
3,400, I think.
3,400 is the top.
Does it take longer to ascend the ROV as opposed to going down to or descending the ROV?
Yeah, we come up a little slower. So yeah, it's going to be about 3.5 hours up.
Oh, wow.
Something like that.
Thanks for the clarification.
Yeah, we can only make about 15 to, well, in the best case, 20 meters per minute up. But averaging 15 is sort of what we use as a nominal number.
Liz, do you expect to find or think we would find any sea cucumbers down here?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that there will be some down there. They might be pretty sparse, so in this short of a dive, whether we'll see any, it can't be for sure, but
Do you expect to see the same species that we have been seeing?
no, I expect it'll be different because this is, significantly deeper.
Okay.
The sediment, I imagine, might be a little bit different from what we've been seeing on the seamounts. I mean, again, we don't know. This is just, conjecture, but if we do see them, they'll almost certainly be different species.
Oh, cool. That'll be exciting then to see something new. Cool. Thank you, Liz.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. We have another, we have a few questions coming in here. The first is for the pilots. Is there a limit to the sea state that the Argus/Hercules combo can handle?
Definitely, yeah. All RV systems have a sea state limit. Ours is sort of limited a little bit. Also, it kind of ties in with the limitations of the ship's dynamic positioning. So the ship has to be able to hold and move around for us to do our RV dives. And those limits kind of match up quite well with sort of the limits of what we set for the ROVs, which tends to be kind of a 20 to 25 knot winds and, 2.5 kind of meter, 2.5 to 3 meter swells, definitely on the lines of our limits. And then when you throw in some current into there, that can kind of tip you over the edge of being able to do these types of operations to get the vehicles in and out safely.
Thank you, Josh. And just out of curiosity, for my own knowledge, what does sea state refer to?
There's a few different sort of types of sea states, just like the Beaufort sea state kind of system, and I think Douglas is another one. And they kind of just, they call it like sea state 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. And those kind of have definitions of what the state of the surface of the ocean is like. So how big the waves are, how big the swell is, what the winds are like, and how it kind of looks.
Cool.
So there's a couple different scales out there that you can use.
Thank you, Josh.
Yeah.
And I have a question here for our scientists. This one's directed towards Liz. What sort of creatures live at the depths you'll be exploring on this dive?
So it's a lot of the same kind of general groups that we've been seeing at the shallower seamounts, but it's going to be different species, and it's probably not going to be as dense, especially in terms of the corals and the sponges. We've been seeing pretty dense communities of them on the seamounts. That's probably not going to be the case here. We will almost certainly still see corals and sponges, as well as the fish, brittle stars, pretty much all of the same groups, but different members of the same groups.
Okay, and maybe not as abundant.
Yes.
And then that would have a lot to do with the depth that we're going to.
Yeah, so the deeper you go, the less food availability there is. It is a general rule. There are some variations on that, but there's probably going to be less food available at this depth.
And probably the size, they're going to be smaller too, right? Then.
Some of them might be. It's actually interesting for the sea cucumbers, which is the group that I have been studying the most. They actually are pretty big when you get down to the abyssal plain, which this isn't abyssal plain, but it's close to those depths. And we've actually found that at sites with less food, in some cases, the individual animals, there's fewer of them, but they tend to be larger than at sites with more food. And we really have no idea why that is. So the corals, yes, they will be smaller, and the sponges as well, but some of the other megafauna, and some of the fish will be smaller, but some of them might be larger than what we've seen. So yeah, it's one of those things where, again, the general rule is the deeper you go, the smaller individuals are, but then there's groups that don't follow that pattern at all.
Lots of cool mystery coming up in this dive, apparently.
Yeah.
I just want to watch the bottom loom out of the, out of nowhere.
So Liz, is this more marine snow than we've seen before? Or?
Yeah, I was just remarking to you that, just based on visual observation alone, this looks like more marine snow than we've seen at these similar depths. on other dives, which was surprising me. I've been trying to figure out why that might be.
Well, thank you guys for all of your information and the awesome conversations that we've been having. We're going through a transition here. I do have one final question that I'm gonna, yeah, no. And I think I'll hit this over to Emma. Oh, she might be switching over. Actually, I'm going to leave these questions for the next team that's coming on here for our sea pickle guys.
I can answer a quick question.
Oh, thank you, Emma. Is the dive time limited by depth?
Yeah, like we said before, we can't go farther than 4,000 meters. So we are starting at a depth of 3,900 meters and going up from there. And we're hitting the highest point that is nearest to us, which is about 3,400 meters down.
Okay.
And then coming back up.
Awesome, Emma. Thank you so much for that. All right. Thank you for being with us today. Your muted team is off its watch. Malamapono a hui ho.
What camera? Never. No, it's terrible. No.
Radio comm check.
Loud and clear.
Roger.
How are the sea pickles tonight?
Hello, doing well.
Fully pickled. I'm just kidding. Getting caffeinated for this blue water watch. Blue water.
So, for those tuning in, this is the 12 to 4 watch, the sea pickles, and we're going to be sending down this blue water column for another hour and a half or so before we reach our target, which is a very enigmatic kind of east-west trending tectonic ridge. It's very deep. We're going to go about as deep as we do go with the Hercules, about 3,900 meters depth. And we're going to be mostly staying around that depth, looking at very deep water communities. And hopefully sampling some tectonically uplifted ancient oceanic crust. We'll see. No idea what we're going to find. So how about we do some introductions? We go around and everyone introduce themselves and maybe tell us what your favorite hobby is. I'll start. I'm Kevin Conrad. I'm a watch lead here and marine geologist from the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. And my favorite hobby is searching for new restaurants.
Ooh, good hobby.
We will use that when we're in port.
It'll be quite the search out here.
Yeah.
Haven't found any. That's why it's a search.
Come up real dry, Johnson Atoll.
Because that's empty here. I'm Meredith Everett. I'm from NOAA's Northwest Fisheries Science Center, where I'm a geneticist who works with the NOAA's Deep Sea Coral Research and Technology Program. I work on the genetics of deep sea corals and their taxonomy. And when I am not out here, my favorite hobby is, and it's going to be so hard to choose just one. I would say probably rock climbing.
Oh,
nice. Hey everyone, my name is Chanel Vidal. I'm a PhD student from Arizona State University, and I'm out here as an ocean science intern, learning a bunch about coral. This landlocked girl is very happy out here. And my favorite hobby would probably be flying airplanes.
what?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Very cool.
I like to leave grad school every once in a while.
Cool.
You just get stressed out and you just hop on your airplane?
Yeah, it's nice. No problems in the sky.
You have your pilot's license then?
I'm working on it. I just got a scholarship, so I'm actually flying a lot more nowadays, which is super exciting.
That's great.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Off to our next pilot.
I guess not. Womp. All right, start again. Hey, I'm Chris Krasnowski. I'm here as a navigator and a high-resolution mapping specialist, and I also like flying airplanes.
Ooh.
I bought into a 1946 Aranca Champion last couple years ago, and I've been flying all around New England.
Nice.
So.
Do you have your PPL?
Yeah, I've had it since 2010.
That's cool.
What's the PPL? Personal pilot's license?
Close. It's private pilot's license.
Private pilot's license.
Even though it's like not actually a license and it's a certificate, but it's fine.
Yeah. What have you been flying?
I flew in a short wing CT and Remos GX, which are both light sport planes.
Okay.
They were fun but really hard because they just get jostled around. But I like flying in Piper Archers and mostly 172s, but I think the Archer is my favorite.
Okay.
What about you? Well,
I've been flying little tail draggers and stuff. That's kind of
Oh my gosh.
That's been my my go-to. I like the little airplanes that you get jostled around. The less airplane, the better.
Yeah, yeah, I like them too, but not when I have to do like S-turns and my instructor's peering over my shoulder.
Oh, hi. Hey folks, my name is Jess. I am flying Herc on this lovely midnight to 4 a.m. watch. And and what I like doing in my spare time hobby. I like dancing a lot, so I dance basically to anything, but was a pretty avid tango dancer before the pandemic. And then during the pandemic, danced with my refrigerator, but you know, as one does.
That door swings open.
It's actually a brilliant dancing partner. I mean, it's always there. And yeah, the door swinging open, that's like a beautiful, you know, arm going out, wrist and all, you know, it's lovely.
It always provides snacks.
Always provides snacks.
Very
whenever
sweet.
I get hungry. Yeah.
Cool, that's awesome. I am Kylie Pasternak. I'm sitting in the Atalanta seat, and I like to do yard work. I get like great satisfaction from doing yard work. I just put in, like, I have a little porch, and I did some like landscaping around it to make it like more of like a little patio sitting area garden, and I grow a bunch of stuff, and I grow a bunch of potted flowers.
Awesome.
Hi, I'm Tim Dwyer. I'm sitting to Kylie's left and in the video seat. What are my hobbies? I'm trying to, like, if I'm going to be really honest, is couch a hobby?
Yeah, yes, potatoing.
Yeah, I've had a busy couple of years where I've sort of had two kind of full-time things going simultaneously for a while. I built houses on weekends for 2 years, and that was awesome. I wouldn't really call that a hobby because I got to live in one of them afterwards, so it's sort of a payoff. Yeah, I found great enjoyment from that, but now that that's over, I'm kind of like, what's on Netflix?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Deep relaxation is a hobby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a necessity. I mean, really.
It's a way of life.
What are you watching on Netflix nowadays?
Oh, wow. You know, actually it was on Amazon. The Expanse.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
That was really good.
Nice.
How many seasons are there of that show?
5 or 6, I forget.
Raj, yeah. I saw the first 2, and then I didn't have Amazon anymore, so life. But yeah, it was really, I think that's one of the sci-fi shows that is, like, as far as physics go, like, pretty accurate, right?
Yeah, it totally is. And that's one of the reasons that I really like it. They pay a lot of attention to sort of like realistic space maneuvers.
Yeah. And how the people in like the asteroid belt, like bodies are affected by the lack of gravity. Is that right? Yeah.
Totally.
Like that's like I love that incorporation. It's like makes your brain think of things that you know might not have otherwise.
Yeah. Sort of makes me think of it too as we're sort of flying through blue water here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that that one I just finished. So I'm gonna find a new one. Suggestions. It's going to be a little while before we're back in port.
Yeah,
so
totally.
There's no
no rush.
Netflix on the ship. Let me ask you this. What is on our video system in the lounge?
Our server?
Yeah, our server.
There's a bunch of movies on it. Yeah.
There's my cousin Vinny. That's on there.
A classic.
Yeah, this is one of my favorites. And there's this. We have this Tango DVD. So maybe it's Tango, maybe it's salsa. Maybe I said Tango because you just said it, but it's a dancing movie. I made them watch it a couple years ago, and everybody was kind of like, ew, initially. But it was just the right amount of levity and just the right amount of stupid.
Okay.
So it really, just trust me. Trust me.
Was this strictly ballroom?
Yes,
That's
yes,
what my brain was
yes,
going to.
amazing.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Christopher Guest.
Yes.
No,
I couldn't remember the name of it. I'm glad you did. Thank you.
Is that Christopher Guest?
I don't know the actors' names, but they're the ones, he's the one that's in the stuff with all the other guy. I'm sorry, that's useless. But you know what I mean, right?
I'm just impressed Meredith could guess a movie on the first try from nothing more than a bit of levity and a bit of stupidity.
Well, if you saw the cover for this movie, you'd be like, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, sounds perfect.
I mean, it's Baz Luhrmann does ballroom dancing, so
Oh, that's what it is.
it's quite good.
Oh, okay, you got it. Yeah, that's the one.
Oh yeah, totally. Okay.
Oh, and what's the woman from it? Rashida Jones.
Oh.
Wait,
Yeah, we
is
had
this it? Did they remake this movie? I think they might have remade this movie. Anyway, neither here nor there. The media servo should be explored, much like the deep.
Much like the deep.
Nice draw back there.
Yeah, exactly. Way to bring it back around. So I was reading the dive plan because it's pretty sweet. We get dive plans laid out for everybody for dives, and this is a ridge that wasn't.
Oh, wow.
Was only recently, I guess, mapped, right, in high detail from
Yeah, correct.
From Nautilus's last cruise out here.
Yep. Yeah, all we had previously was basically from satellite altimetry data, some very coarse idea that there's something kind of east-west trending. We didn't know if it was a volcanic ridge or what it was until we last expedition mapped it in detail. And now we can see it's these two parallel, very thin ridges, very steep walls on each side with a basin, kind of pull-apart depression in between them. So we're thinking it's tectonic in origin, because it the northern ridge section is lower than the southern one, so we think it's kind of being pulled apart and faulted upward. And so we're just kind of something uplifted this area. But it's in an orientation that doesn't match any other orientations in the region, so that's what's very curious about it. And it's not very long either, like most fracture zones. So, long story short, we don't know what it is.
What would you need to see to tell you whether it was tectonic in origin?
Probably the rock types. So if we pull up ancient oceanic basalt, that's crustal kind of in age, then we'll probably expect that it was an uplifted fault from the crust. If it's younger, it might just be a really thin volcanic ridge, very unusual one. Ideally, we'd have some geophysical data, some gravity lines across it that can kind of show the difference in the crust and everything that we can kind of work out if it's tectonic in origin, but those aren't on the ship. Those are kind of specialized instruments. So right now, we're going to go down there and look. If it is tectonic in origin, if we could go deeper, it would probably have things like deeper mantle rocks and crustal rocks, then topped with basalts, then sediments. But we probably can only see the upper 100 meters or so of the cliff, because it's so deep that hopefully we see some cool igneous rocks, some pillow basalts.
So speaking of the dive that we have ahead of us, just some things for you guys to be aware of in the back row that could be limiting some parts of our dive is we're going to be keeping a good eye on our winch tension. So as we're paying out, this is obviously the deepest dive we'll have dove on, especially in this expedition. If we reach tension spikes that are over 15,000 pounds, we're going to all stop on the descent, and then obviously we'll alert you. And then if we get tension spikes that are over 1650 or 16,500, we're going to alleviate that tension if we have 5 tension spikes over 1650. 16,500, you know what I mean. So anyway, so we'll be keeping a good eye on that, and if we have to all stop in the water column depth, we'll let you know. The weather hopefully will not change.
Yeah.
But we'll let you know otherwise.
Great, thank you.
Sure thing. Sorry, one other thing to keep in mind is that we're going to do a pretty slow approach of the of the wall feature, letting any catenary kind of swing out. So even if we have bottom lock, we're going to kind of stop higher in the water column. And we're going to basically really slowly approach the wall. So it might take us an extra like 20 minutes to get things set up before we'll start moving, and we'll do very slow moves, kind of stepwise, just to be on the radar. So it might take us a little bit to get set up.
Yeah, that sounds great. Thank you.
And last update, we're all stopped on the winch right now. They're also lubing up the cable. So they're just changing out buckets. So if you notice we haven't moved, that's why.
Good, thanks for the update.
So how does one alleviate tension on the winch? What?
Massagers.
Yeah, go ahead, Kylie.
We pay in.
You pay in?
Yeah, we like pull it back up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because the amount of cable that we pay out puts more weight in the water, which in general should be fine, but depending on the sea state, it may not be. It probably will be.
Okay, because as the ship heaves, that puts, right, adds a lot of force to.
Yeah. So we would just pay in until it sort of settled out, and then like assess the conditions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, is this because Atalanta is essentially a weight in the water column? So as the ship heaves up and down, it can cause kind of a crack the whip motion in the cable?
I think it's partly that. I think it's partly that we're paying so much cable out.
Yeah. Yeah, the water is a good dampener, so we won't see that whiplash on the subsea, but we'll have thousands of pounds of cable physically in the water, so that's kind of all additive, and then the other dynamic loading will. We don't want to, since we're setting all of our power down on these conductors and fiber optics and all, like we don't want to compress them and cause failure across the cable or short or whatnot. So, which is a bad day.
Yeah.
Very bad day.
Yeah. It's happened before. It's fixable, but it's a whole thing.
Yeah, we were both out for
yeah, that was my internship year.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
You want to hear a full story moment?
Yeah.
That was the first time I've ever re-terminated fiber optics, which like, I've seen Verizon commercials. I've heard about fiber optics. So, like I know what they are, but I've never seen a fiber. So you pull like the outer steel like tension member off of the 6/8, which is that's our cable that sends like it has conductors and the fiber inside of it. So you pull out the steel armor, and we get through the conductors, and you get down into this like little tiny steel tube, and inside that is like 4 glass pieces of hair, basically, that you scrape the coating, like there's a little coating on it, and you scrape that off, and you terminate it, and you put a connector on it. That was the first time I did that was my internship year, and then on the earlier this season when I was out, we had to do another re-termination, and I was the one teaching other people how to do it.
Aww.
And like the leaders like knocked off and trusted us to do it on like the 12 to 4 at night.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I have gotten enough experience doing this where I am the one trusted and referred to do the task. I was like, oh my God, full circle. I've never seen these things before, and now I'm teaching others.
Yeah, that's awesome, Kylie.
Yeah, I mean, so you're attaching a tiny like thread of hair.
Roger. 30?
Yes, ma'am.
So I have the questions coming in from the audience right now, and there's a question related to the feature we're diving on that just came in. It says, do we believe this to be an active spreading location?
Right, no. Based on all inferences, this is an ancient feature. We don't know exactly when it occurred, most likely 120 or so million years ago. But there's no real seismic activity in the region. There's no tensile forces that would be causing this kind of structure in this area these days. So it's likely a remnant, some ancient scar of a past. But exactly when, we don't know. But good question.
So when you say it's a tectonic origins as opposed to volcanic origins?
Yeah.
All right. And we're talking about either two things coming together, sliding past each other, or separating?
Yeah, essentially this might represent things either being pulled apart, like forcefully kind of just tearing the crust and uplifting one side and kind of pushing down the other side. This might be some remnant of spreading center, two different spreading centers moving adjacent to each other. That's what you find modern day transform faults. So if you look at a bathymetric map of the ocean basins, you see those kind of long lines.
The SITREP said not until the end of the week.
Those are called transform faults, and this might be one of those, but if it is, it occurred shortly and then stopped for some reason.
You say thank you and then give my gifts away? Oh, sorry.
But yeah, by tectonic, we means it's probably some kind of either boundary force or it's just the plate being deformed in some way through stress.
Kevin, do we see this in other places on the planet where something started to happen and then stopped?
Yeah, you can find this in a few different places. Maybe not exactly like this one, but yeah, it's not uncommon. Southeast of Hawaii, the big island of Hawaii, there is a fracture zone called the Kanakanoiki fracture zone. And it kind of just starts and goes for a few 100 kilometers and then it ends. So it was at some point a little small plate, basically what's called a microplate, kind of formed in the Pacific, and it rotated independently of the Pacific plate, and then eventually it just froze back onto the Pacific plate. And this happens sometimes. We see that around Easter, on Easter Island. We have the Easter microplate, which is kind of like a little plate that formed where you kind of don't have clean boundaries between two plates. Sometimes you can create a little small plate to alleviate the stress. Kind of like picture tectonic plates around Earth as kind of big puzzle pieces, that go together. But sometimes it's hard to fit all the puzzle pieces together neatly. And so sometimes you end up creating little microplates to kind of fill the gaps. And we think maybe this is how this formed. Not sure. But we do see features like this associated with those microplates sometimes.
That's a great analogy. I don't know anybody who hasn't tried to jam a puzzle piece into a
Sometimes
puzzle.
Tape and a razor blade is the most important puzzle piece.
It's nice to know Earth does this too.
You have some very abstract puzzles that result, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
The eye is actually where the toe is. I mean, that sounds very interesting.
Picasso puzzles.
Yeah, exactly. They sell for more. Seems like we have a bit more marine snow in this region as we're going through the column than we have on the eastern side of Johnston Atoll.
I was actually just thinking that exact thing, that on previous sessions of blue water, at least the ones we've had, it has been perfectly clear, and there is a lot of snow in the water here.
That's a good sign. Might be more life on the bottom. There's more to eat.
I'm wondering also if this is just a localized current phenomenon.
Right.
Or, yeah, something about the orientation of us on the other side of the atoll where we actually have enough topography that breaks the surface.
So this morning when we started to transit, we were southeast of the, southwest of the atoll, and now we're sort of west-northwest of the...
We were southeast, yeah, now we're kind of east.
Now we're east, okay.
Yeah. I'm sorry, no, now we're west of the atoll. We were southeast, now we're west.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, we went on a bit of a transit, kind of the equivalent of sailing across the state of Nevada, if you want a reference frame. So the oceans over here are actually slightly different. You get different surface waves. It's actually calmer on this side of the monument. We're obviously seeing a little more productivity. It looks like the deep sea currents are modeled to be moving, is it westward? East-west at a decent velocity. Let me look at my HiCom model here. About 0.05 meters per second. So, at the close to the seafloor in the region. So hopefully that's enough to get some cool life, some deep stuff. We'll probably see some sponges. And hopefully something new.
Well, we're on the deeper end of a range for a lot of corals, but I'm still hopeful that we get some on the nice basalt slopes we're going to be looking at today.
Yeah, me too. And that's the one thing, this depth is, although we don't see a lot of corals at this depth, we have very little dive footage at this depth. It's a very rarely explored depth. Typically most dives are 3,000 meters and shallower. So there's plenty to be discovered down at these depths.
Yeah, the current depth record for corals is a species of umbellula that was found on the Porcupine abyssal plain at about 6,000 meters, but that is outside of the typical range for sure.
Just a fraction outside.
I'm waiting for Kylie to chime in with 6,000 meters. That's unbelievable.
I was doing a gauge check.
I know.
I wasn't paying attention.
You were
I wasn't paying attention to the right thing at the right time, but...
You're not focusing on what's important.
I missed my opportunity.
Well, if we get some sediment, particularly on top of this feature, there'll be opportunities to use that.
Well, to be fair, that's Gabby's joke from the beginning of the season. So it's like, you know that song, right? You're so unbelievable.
Oh, yeah,
whoa!
EMF, right.
That's what she's saying, and I will never unhear it.
Thanks. No, I can't unhear that.
None of us will ever unhear it.
But do you remember when they used it for a Kraft macaroni commercial, and it was like, you're crumb-believable, because it was like crumbles, like cheese crumbles in the Kraft mac and cheese in the 90s.
Sounds kind of good right now.
It sounds like a very effective commercial if it comes back to your mind from the 1990s that quickly.
I was really into those TV shows. It was like, I love the 90s, I love the 80s. And I think it was featured heavily as a vignette in that. So maybe I just like TV.
I can go for a bowl of Kraft mac and cheese right now.
Yeah, that sounds really good.
Some fried hot dogs.
Yes. You think we could put in a request?
If we put in a DoorDash with a big tip.
I have not tried to open one of those apps to see what would happen.
Somebody's got a drone, I'm sure.
What are we, like 600 miles from Hawaii?
Yeah, let's see exactly how far we are from Hawaii.
It's a race between you and the navigator now.
Oh, that's something I'll lose. So we're looking at about 960 miles to Oahu from where we are now.
Did you concur, Chris? So is there anything identifiable in this marine snow? Has anybody seen anything that they, I mean, I'm starting to make cloud shapes out of some of this stuff, but.
I haven't seen anything that looks like a specific like gelatinous organism like a siphonophore. It looks like it's mostly clumps of marine snow, which would be made up of, fecal pellets and dead phytoplankton and mucus from higher level organisms. But yeah, I haven't seen anything specific. No gelatinous organisms, no squid yet.
I have a science question. Not really, sort of. What's the, stop, I'm sorry. It's science adjacent. What's the coolest scientific acronym? You know how like there's papers and projects and research thingies that are all like RISE, the research in science expedition.
Yeah.
What is a acronym that you have participated in or otherwise thought was a stretch?
I liked the NOAA's 2015 to 2019 Pacific project. They called it Capstone. And they were exploring the tops of all these seamounts, which was a good name.
Yeah.
That's a good name.
And that one fit pretty well, because I never, not to call out any specific nation, but all my Japanese colleagues, they love fitting things that don't fit into acronyms. So you'll have an acronym like Godzilla, and it's like, well, the G is from this word, and then the O-D-I and E are from this word, and then...
In the middle of the word, right? Like not the leading letter.
Yeah, exactly. So you end up with this, like, they're spelling it out with, like, capital letters just randomly distributed throughout the, the long name, which I appreciate. At least they're going for it.
I think the one that comes to mind for me was working with Ocean Networks Canada, and they have that cabled observatory that's about it's like 800 or 900 kilometers of fiber optic cable laid off the coast of Vancouver Island, connected to all kinds of really awesome oceanographic instruments that sends real-time data right back to researchers. It's really, that and the one on the US side are really revolutionary.
They wired the one to Fuca plate.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
across the whole tectonic plate. But you should check it out. It's called Neptune, which, if I remember correctly, stands for Northeast Pacific Time Series Undersea Networked Experiments.
Wow.
That's pretty good.
That's a good memory that you have for the acronym.
Well, yeah, and it's an interesting science communication issue too, because people talk about a Neptune observatory, they think you're looking at the planet. So, so it's kind of a redirect. So I think when I was working with them, I ended up saying that a bunch. Yeah, the Northeast Pacific Time Series Undersea Networked Experiments, and it's super cool, and you should check it out.
I'm required by loyalty to my colleagues to say that my current favorite acronym is EXPRESS, which is the program that I've been involved with, supported as part of the West Coast Deep Sea Coral Initiative, which stands for Expanding Pacific Research and Exploration of Submerged Systems.
Oh, that's good.
That's a good one. Y'all will appreciate mine. I worked on a project called BASALT.
Oh.
Yeah, I know, right? And it's an acronym for Biologic Analog Science Associated with Lava Terrains. So our project simulated extravehicular activities and developed software that's useful for doing science and also communicating with Mars. And that software is now on Mars 2020 Perseverance. So
very cool.
Yeah, we actually did it out here in Hawaii. So I've been here twice now and have spent a few hours at the beach, and each time I was here for a month. So eventually I'll get in the water for longer than an hour. But yeah.
It's a great acronym.
It's so good. There's also its sister project that I also worked on is called Finesse, which, I mean, that's just awesome. And it's field investigations to enable solar system science and exploration. Whoa.
The most recent one I did that had an acronym was RIPPLE, research at the intersection of phytoplankton, oh, what's the P? The other P, phytoplankton, some proteins, lipids, and exports.
That's cool.
It was like a fish poop study.
What they don't tell you.
Yeah.
And he was a big fan of the band that sings Ripple, Grateful Dead. There it is, yeah. Grateful Dead.
Yeah, for speaking of colleagues, my one of my colleagues, Dr. Pamela Burnley at UNLV, she has the Nevada Rock Deformation Laboratory, or the Nerd Lab, which I think is a great name.
That is a great name.
One of our viewers has a contribution, which is, you know, near and dear to my heart. Someone who's dealing with a lot of taxonomy, and that's worms, which is the World Register of Marine Species.
Oh.
I would love to see the grant application. It's like Project Worms, you know what I mean? Like, that's awesome.
We're all just people.
Yeah, it catches the eye.
Yeah, it totally catches the eye.
Worms is a great one. That's an extremely useful resource.
Yeah.
You can identify anything, or, you know, at least compare what you have to anything that's in there.
It can also send you down the rabbit hole that is the Biodiversity Heritage Library, which is a deep, deep rabbit hole.
Go on.
It's basically a consortium that has devoted their time, energy, and funds to scanning and digitizing all of the old taxonomic journals. So you have scans of all the original species descriptions for a lot of species, and they also digitize a lot of the artwork and scientific drawings. So they have this incredible Flickr page that has just all of this incredible 19th century nature art. You can spend hours just like digging deeper and deeper into the old taxonomic records if you're, you know, a biology and taxonomy nerd.
That's super cool, and I will definitely do that. What's it called again? The World Heritage?
It's the Biodiversity Heritage Library.
Biodiversity Heritage Library. BHL, not a great acronym. Well, yeah, I think, you know, sort of Ernst Haeckel's plates and drawings, I think, have become kind of popular in recent years as kind of neat artwork to put up. Aren't a lot of the species descriptions in Latin?
A surprising number of them are actually in German. But yeah, you can get, if you go down that rabbit hole, a lot of them are in Latin if they're really old. Those tend to be like 1700s. And then you'll get some in English from the 1800s and early 1900s, and then there's a lot in German. Just depending on what species you're looking at as well. So at least in the Pacific, a lot of the early coral descriptions were done by a researcher named Kuchenthal, and those are all in German. It's also a really great way to really exercise your Google Translate as you're like trying to get these old taxonomic terms, and Google's going, what are you doing?
You broke Google, right? It's interesting watching this marine snow sort of break up in front of us.
I was just thinking that, because like the difference between Atalanta and Herc is like, Herc just is going down, and I'm going down, I'm paying out in the same way, but I like bob through it, don't I? Like it pulls away and then it comes back, and that's the ship heave. Like that's the motion of the ship.
I tried to get the still camera is turned on now and running, but photographing this marine snow as we move through it, like the camera just does not know where to go focus.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, how does the focus work on that? Do you just tap part of the screen? Or does it autofocus?
It autofocuses, although it does also have a manual focus, which I was playing with a little with mixed success. But yeah, it's normally we set it to autofocus, and then there's a shutter button that you click and hold, and that's what autofocuses and then takes the picture. It would be convenient if the software let you just click on part of the screen and focus, but it's unfortunately not that sophisticated.
Gotcha.
Maybe generation 2.0.
You know, when I was on that Ripple cruise, they had some Stanford students there doing some really interesting work to mimic marine snow, because they were studying like how they attach to one another, like different pieces, like how they become like larger pieces, and how they fall through the water column. So there was like a gimbaled piece of equipment that was like essentially a very small Ferris wheel with seawater in it, and a really intense camera stationary on the Ferris wheel that could move. And what they do is they'd like, it's kind of like a video game. They'd have everybody play. They had the cook play, they had me play, they took a picture, it's like, you win a prize. Where you'd like line up the camera to select one of the pieces of marine snow, and then it would keep the Ferris wheel in a motion that would allow it to allow the marine snow to stay in front of the camera, and continuously fall. So they could study what it would be like in situ, and that was like a really, really unique piece of technology I'd never seen before.
Yeah, that sounds like something really a novel apparatus.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, I remember when I was taking sedimentology, well, marine sedimentology, the professor was kind of explaining, well, how do you get these light bits of carbonate and things that kind of should just float and stay in suspension to the bottom? And he described it as they're all riding the poop train.
Yeah, that's right.
And essentially, there's kind of dense fecal matter and stuff that, oh, that's a cool looking critter.
Oh, wow, yeah.
I don't know what that was.
That was a jelly. That was our first jelly.
Nice. But yeah, so basically like raindrops or something, if you just kind of aggregate onto denser things, you'll sink to the bottom. And that's what's, most of this marine snow, why it's kind of clumped. It's things aggregating together, making their way down deep.
Meredith, are you doing highlights too?
I am not doing highlights. I'm just looking at questions.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think I remember in my oceanography textbooks there's this sort of aspect of the pelagic ecosystem, the open water ecosystem here, called the microbial loop. That was an important part of the marine food webs, and I'm completely blanking on how it worked. But essentially it was like microbes decomposing marine snow and being fed on by other organisms.
I think it's the microbes breaking down, marine snow, and then they get fed on by larger and larger zooplankton, and then up into fish, and then all of those create more marine snow. And then that gets related to what I was just remembering from my biological oceanography, the biological pump, otherwise known as the marine carbon pump, which is the amount of material that then escapes from the surface waters and that cycle and sinks to the bottom. basically transporting carbon to the bottom of the ocean.
So when we talk about solutions to use the climate change that will use the ocean to pull carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere, that's essentially what they're talking about, is having stuff transport it to the bottom.
It's, well, yeah, one component. So, you know, making sure we have high, healthy, normal productivity in the oceans is one way that carbon naturally gets sequestered, is all of this material that sinks to the bottom and then becomes part of the seafloor eventually. But that's, you know, not a fast process. $2,500 meters down, 1,400 to go.
Yeah, it's going to be almost as much blue water as seafloor in this kind of dive.
Oh, on our watch tonight?
Well, yeah, on our watch and in total, because I don't know how long we'll be down there for, but we'll be down there longer than blue water total coming up. But it's going to be similar times coming up since we're only going to up to 3,400 meters. So it's not like the last few dives where we started around 3,000 or 2,500 meters and slowly went up to around 1,800 meters. So the ascents were a lot faster than descents in those cases.
Starting to see a few little things swimming around in here.
Yeah, every now and then you'll see what looks like marine snow just shoot upwards in defiance of gravity. So there are little critters over here. I'm assuming they feast on this marine snow. Oh,
Either the marine snow or one another.
yeah. Circle of critters. So what's everyone's favorite nautical-themed movie?
Hands down, The Hunt for Red October.
Uh-huh, that's a good one. I like The Life Aquatic. That was a good movie.
I also like The Life Aquatic. Wes Anderson's awesome.
I am also a big fan of The Life Aquatic, although I am also fairly fond of The Meg.
Ah, The Meg is a fun little movie. People underestimate it. If you go in and not expecting anything other than a megalodon, you'll be very satisfied.
I'm deeply satisfied how much of they redid Jaws shot for shot, but as a comedy.
Yeah. Now, was it an intentional comedy?
I like The Abyss.
Ooh, another good one.
Yeah, that's a good one. Master and Commander.
Also a solid choice.
Yeah. I'm getting disapproving looks from Kylie.
So he's, that's fine. It's fine.
As per the usual.
It's fine.
You're not going to say something like, and there we be on the far side of the world.
Yeah.
The ship is England. The ship is our home.
See? He gets it.
I saw The Abyss while I was on the Atlantis. I was looking through like a media server, and I was like, The Abyss? No, sounds scary. Not gonna watch that. And my friend was like, wait, what are you talking about? And I was like, it sounds like a scary movie. I don't like scary movies. He was like, no, we gotta watch this. We gotta watch this. And I swear to God, if I had seen that when I was a kid, I would have known what I was gonna do with my life. I was in this TV screen, like, wow, they have ROVs, they have robots, they're underwater.
Yes.
Can't treat judge a movie by its title.
When I was in, I guess when I was in early high school, Sequest DSV came out.
I was just about to bring that up. Yeah.
What's that about?
You should definitely watch it.
Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
Especially for the end credits. The
Yes.
little post-credits scene.
The more you know, 100%. Yeah. That was, we have to tell them what that's about. I mean,
Yeah.
It's going to be a while before anybody watches Sequest.
Yeah. I remember watching that when I was growing up.
Yeah. It's just a well-imagined sci-fi series about a submarine exploring the ocean and eventually battling aliens, I think.
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah.
And Bob Ballard telling you about the ocean afterwards.
Really?
After every episode.
Really?
There was,
yeah. Was he like an advisor or something on it? Or
yeah, I think he was.
Science advisor? Yeah.
There's also a Super Nintendo game based on that show.
Oh.
I don't know. I never played the game. Whoa.
If you'd like a really classic nautical B movie, there's Lords of the Deep. Which is, it is fantastically bad.
Yes. Yes, please.
Features telepathic, slightly manta ray-shaped puppets.
Manta ray-shaped puppets?
Oh yeah, this is really good. Like that grow out of like gelatinous blobs.
Everybody loves puppets. It's a quote. I'm pretty sure it's Tammy Faye Baker that said that.
There's some other good go-to nautical theme movies. Yeah, I am not a horror fan.
Yeah.
So anything that involves trapped on the bottom of the ocean and being attacked by sharks or ghosts or ghost sharks, that's not really my thing.
You know what's an interesting movie on Netflix is it's called The Last Breath. So you just made me think of it. But it's a documentary sort of style movie where it's like it's a true story, and it's about saturation divers working off of a ship that loses DP, dynamic positioning, and like what happens. And so a lot of the footage is from the, there's like, we have so many cameras, so do they. A lot of it is from that trip. Okay. Hold on.
No problem.
Raj. And then it's like interviews of the people that were there experiencing it, and a little tiny bit of reenacting, but not in like the campy way, like just in like a really good storytelling way.
Okay, I haven't heard about it, but I'll check it out. The
Yeah.
last breath.
Yes, very, very compelling story. Very interesting.
Have you guys heard of Project Azorian?
No. Like the Azores? Like
yeah,
Portugal?
sounds from like named that someone from the Azorian. But this is a really wild story, and a great documentary too about, especially because of the marine engineering that's involved. A Soviet submarine, this is a true story, sinks catastrophically I think in the late 60s, and U.S. listening posts triangulate its position, and they identify where it's sunk. And so the U.S. government plans to go recover this submarine.
Raj. Don't. Stick lock. How do I stop paying out? Raj. Oh, is there Z bias? They just stopped us and you were flying down. So I zeroed the Z bias and going forward, coming up sort of deal. Okay. Yeah, I know. I was like, she's going to hate this. I took off stick lock because I didn't realize it was a Z bias at first. I know.
Hey team, while we wait, can I practice my zoom and focus skills on some of this marine snow? Or do you want to stay full wide?
That's a great transition to a couple questions we've had about what we're looking at on the screen right now, whether these are decaying medusae or something else. So this is all marine snow. So some components of it may be dead and decaying medusae, but it'll also be clumps of dead phytoplankton, fecal pellets from...
Roger. We can keep going down.
Material from zooplankton that's all flocculating and dropping through the water column to the deep sea.
They stopped greasing the cable now? They said that the greaser's been removed. Interesting.
Is that they're greasing the cables because this part of the cable doesn't see the water very often?
It's a good opportunity to do it, but I would be surprised that they didn't do the rest of it. I mean, maybe they're out of lube. I don't know. I'm not sure, but usually like when you're paying off this much, it's like great to lube it or freshwater rinse it on the way back up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Otherwise it just sits on the drum for...
Yeah, corrodium.
Yeah,
Yeah.
could be a while.
Yeah, especially like when it's this deep, yeah. We don't peel those layers off as frequently.